I have a confession. I am incredibly sad that Christmas is over, but I'm excited for 2021. And I did not think I'd be able to say that. But I am excited. I'm excited for 2021, and I look forward to seeing what is to come in the new year.
That's very true.
I know. So that's my confession.
I just want to be done with 2020.
I know, God, I know. Put it behind me, be like, bye.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Hi, I'm Sybil Solid. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. Running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it out, but we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to make six figures and beyond.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
I'll be honest, a bunch of it totally sucks. Yes. So let's get started.
That is so true. Well, welcome back to Skinfessional. On today's show, we're talking about pricing and living in service of others as service providers. We'll also be talking about dealing with the guilt around money and charging people for stuff. And
why your prices should reflect the type of people you want to attract.
And I'm excited for today's episode. Of course, I'm always excited, but more so because I have questions I want to ask you about pricing and things like that. And we have two very different opinions about pricing. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, we were like pre-arguing. And I was like, we have to stop. Saving it for the show.
Yeah, it's so true. The pre-show was just no. Okay, let's just record. So let's start with kind of how this conversation came up. You guys know how much I love Lindsay Bryan Podvin, who was on our show a couple months ago. So go back and listen to her episode. She's amazing. I worked with her. She changed my life. So now I just want to be her groupie and hang out with her all the time. So today or tonight is the last full moon of the year. And she does a full moon, money shame release party. So I'm going, it's virtual. Can't wait. With astrology and journaling and all of my favorite things. So I'm not 100% sure what to expect, but I'm really excited just to spend more time with Lindsay talking about money and our money stories, which I think as business owners and especially service providers comes up all the damn time. Right? I literally was just having a conversation with a business owner friend who has multiple businesses that make multiple six figures, and was talking about I don't know, maybe I just want to throw the towel in with all this because I don't think it's working, and just the doubt that comes in from collecting money from people, and then also feeling like we are then responsible for their outcomes. Have you ever felt that with your clients?
Absolutely. So responsibility for outcomes is absolutely a big one. I do believe we have an episode called Crying in Your Car. And I mean, the number one thing that has me often crying in my car is the feeling that I have failed clients. And I don't do it very often. But when I feel that I have failed a client, and it's usually because they have done everything I've told them to, and they're compliant, and they're still not getting results. And I'm just I am a failure. And at that point, you've probably actually started giving them free treatments, and you're trying to give them product inexpensively, and you're doing all things because you want them to have this outcome, and you're pushing it. And they're still failing, and you feel like a full-on failure.
Yeah. But also, I don't think that no matter how good you are, it is impossible for you to be that right person for everybody who comes in the door, It's true. But I will say that okay, so I am known for people in my industry as the house MD of skincare. So people, I'm the person that people come to when you've seen everyone else. I'm the person who's going to get you results. And for 99% of people, I do that. So you come to me and I solve that problem. I'm the person who's dude, this is what the other people have missed. As long as you're compliant and you do what I tell you, we're going to get you results. It might cost you some money. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you effort, but we're going to get you there.
when you do all those things and I still can't get you there, I just sit around obsessing and crying and being upset. So, I mean, yes, there's obviously something that either I've missed or what I've realized over the years is it's usually an emotional component that I cannot control. And it's like, I need to send them, it's a therapy thing.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really interesting that you're saying there's this emotional component with it, because I know when it comes to money, and we've had this conversation so many times,
Yeah.
You and like money emotions aren't really like tied together. Like, would you say you find it easy to separate like your emotions from money?
Oh yeah. Like for me, I put my CEO hat on and I'm like, this is a money issue and this is not about my heart. It's not about it. And I know for many people it's very tied, but for me, nope, it's very hands off. But it took me a while to get there. And I think it's because, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and failed entrepreneurs that I could distance myself like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's definitely hard to separate, your clients, not even success, but like their progress.
Yeah.
And the money that they're giving you. And I know like I feel it's really frustrating. Like I feel like, I'm doing everything I can for this person and like it's not working. And for me, the situation is different because like I'm not seeing them one-to-one, like they still have to show up and hold up their end of the deal. And even people who like don't show up inside my membership in a way that I would, but they're still paying. Like sometimes I feel kind of guilty about that, but I'm like, but again, that's their choice, how they want to spend their money, how they want to engage with you. And that's completely up to them. It's not your business, in like
not your business.
It is your business, but like that's not your business. And I think one of the best things that you can do as a business owner is to, chip away at that emotional connection of to their money in a sense,
You need to be able to step away. This is why for me, and I've talked about this before, like in my mind, I have like a middleman. I have a middleman, and doctors' offices do this really well. So a lot of times a doctor's office, like if they're dealing with money, they actually have somebody who comes in and they talk to you about money.
Right.
And the doctor never sees you and talks to you about money ever. Right. They have a receptionist who takes money. If they're like dealing with any kind of like payment, they have somebody else who comes in and deals with that. And that is so they are completely separate. And you don't think of the healer as a person who collects your money.
Right.
Right. And for me, I think of that. And I do that. And for years, I had an assistant named Catherine. And Catherine, to this day, is the person who is, I in my mind, associate any of these kind of money issues to, and I assign blame when there's a problem. Catherine is the person who, Catherine needs to collect that money. And Catherine has all these issues. And Catherine is the one who, if there's an issue, I'm going to have to ask Catherine what she thinks. Catherine is the one. Or if you have an online system, the online system is going to have to do that automatically.
Yeah. I think too of like putting some space, whether it is like a middleman or just like, oh, let me get back to you on that. You don't have to give somebody an answer right away.
Right. And there literally are services. So if you really can't separate yourself, there are services that do this, and they are often worth their weight in gold because it just takes the stress out of your life.
Yeah. Have you ever used a service like that?
I know Gravy does that for people.
They do. Gravy is for like recurring payments though, I think.
They also, they've branched out. They also do, they do collection. So they do recurring payment. They do collection. If you're losing payment, they do collection. And then if you need, if you're a smaller platform and you actually are just like, one-on-one, you can just you can do onboard like a receptionist. They have virtual receptionists that you can have.
Oh my gosh. I have not been paying attention to what Gravy's doing. Okay. That sounds super awesome. Because because
I get emails from them all the time.
I think I unsubscribed. I set up basically, and I've talked about before, like an automation that does that. So if there's a missed payment, like right away that email comes through, hey, you missed your payment. And another day passes. If they still haven't fixed that payment, then it starts to like kick them out and notify me. So then I have to get involved, and I have some like templates about all of that. I think the biggest thing too that I have really worked on in this last year is not taking it personally. That's like the overall theme of today's episode, but when people quit, when they leave, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going on in their life, even though when I ask, when they do via email, again, another one of those systems,
Right.
I don't know what's going on. And if they don't want to be in my business at 100% and show up and do the work and just, interact in a way that works for us both, then like I'm totally fine. Like leave. You're making space and room. There's like billions of people in this world. The right person is going to come through that door.
Well, and we have to remember that there are lots of reasons that people move on, and I'm careful, like, so how you're careful about the word failure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm careful about the word leave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I often use the word move on because I have found over the years that people often don't actually leave you. They move on and then they come back, So what will happen is somebody will move on from you. And so what happens is they will, they'll decide, what, maybe it's greener down the street, or maybe right now you're not a place that I can afford. You're not what I'm looking for. My friend told me about this I always call it new cow, but this new thing that's better, that seems like more awesome. And then suddenly at some point they're like, you know what? I actually do like what I had before. Mm-hmm. Or I suddenly do have money and I can invest in myself again. Or emotionally, I'm in the mind space, and they'll remember that you were the person who they liked, or you were the person who got them the farthest, or you had the messaging that they, that spoke to them, even though their friend glittered them with like that dude who had the pecs, you know, and suddenly they're like, hey, you know what? I'm back again. Now, whether they stay with you is another opportunity for you, but you can't take it personally when they kind of like move on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think
sometimes you want them to.
Yes. I think that's also really great wisdom from a business owner who has the experience, right? Whereas like, I'm just talking about sample size of 1 year, or even, well, a little bit more, but like we're talking.
Like I was say, don't cut yourself short. You've been doing this a while now.
Yeah. But I'm talking like the membership specifically. We'll say 2 years, right? We're going on 2 years. So like in a 2-year period, a lot may not have changed. We also have had a really weird year. So definitely, which is also why not taking it personally and like not putting that energy out towards the relationship then does leave that open to them returning. If I'm like, oh, screw you, you left me, I can't believe that. Of course, they're never going to come back, whether they know it on a conscious level or not.
Right. And we actually had a conversation about this, so we're going to talk about it again. Asking the person why they left, I think is really valuable. Getting information. I know it's sometimes hard. Like we don't want to ask people questions about why they've kind of moved on. It feels awkward and uncomfortable to ask a breakup question, like, hey, so why don't you want to see me anymore? Right. But you would be surprised how many people are completely happy to give you a truthful answer when you ask them a truthful question, and from the heart. When you ask them a question and not in person, from like an email, and it just says, I'm asking this question because I'm trying to improve. And that's it. And Alex and I have gone over this before because I told her, I was like, but if people are leaving, you should ask them why. And she was like, I don't want to. I'm like, you really should. You'll be interested to find out the reasons why.
It has been really helpful too, because it has kept me from like spinning out about why they're leaving, because I'm like, well, it's probably because of the pandemic and money. And literally that has been all of the responses. So I'm like, yeah, it's not even personal. So like, don't take it personal.
Right. And understand that if it's pandemic and money, that person, once again, they're not leaving. Right. They're potentially in their mind putting you on pause. Right.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's so many things in my life that in my mind, I put something on pause, but in the back of my mind, I haven't left that person. Like I am still dedicated to you. You are my person. And when I'm ready, you are the person I'm going back to, which is why I have clients who I don't see them for a decade. And then they're like, hey, Sybil, I don't know if you remember me, but
And you're like, I've been waiting.
And I'm like, I super don't remember you, but I have chart notes for you. So let me pull them out. And they're like, of course I remember you. Hey, how is your niece? How is your skin? Are you still on these things, or this is still where you're at?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
important to keep those chart notes.
Keep those chart notes, guys. You'll be like a superhero when you remember things about them. And they're like, oh my God, everything's changed, or nothing's changed at all, but I can't believe you remember me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, and you're like, I don't know you at all.
you just need to pretend. So this is all really great too, of, you know, when people are leaving and just kind of like that client relationship. But let's talk a little bit about like the actual prices that you're setting for your services.
Let's get into it.
This came about, I don't even remember, somewhere in the ether of the 10 trillion hours of content I am consuming on a regular basis, about what you charge for your services. And this person was a wedding photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as your books fill up, you raise your price a little bit. As your books fill up again, you raise your price again. And they got to this point where they were making really, really, really good money, more than they had before. But the type of client, especially in the wedding industry, that it attracted was a person who was just interested in talking about how much they spent on their photographer. It wasn't about the artistry anymore, which was important for this person. And so they actually backed down on their prices so that they could continue to work with people that they wanted to work with. So as I also am raising my prices going into 2021, what are your thoughts on how your prices attract the type of person that comes in the door?
I remember that story, and I remember you and I was like, wow, that's a really good story. It's a really good point. So I know that, I have raised my prices a bunch of times, and I know at one point in time that I raised my prices to a point that I was getting a clientele that was super high maintenance, like crazy high maintenance, and they would pay the price. Like, they would be like, I have no problems with a $599 facial. But because of that, they required like me to come in at weird times, and they needed me to like change my schedule like that. And, you know, they were just super high maintenance. And I can deal with high maintenance to a certain level, but they were high maintenance to a level that I just did not care. I was like, there's no amount of money in the world that makes me care about you and your needs. I don't care. And so I was like, okay, so this is not my client. And they didn't care about their skin enough for me to care at $599. And so I was like, okay, so here's not my clientele at all. And so I knew that I had to back down a little bit. And so finding that sweet spot is the magic. I'm gonna take a sip of water.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Finding that sweet spot. Absolutely. Ooh, sparkling water today. I love it. Now, when you backed your prices down, what did that look like? Did you invite people back in? Like, send an email?
So when I backed my prices back down, essentially I kept a few services that were still pretty expensive. But they were like very specific services. So like I kept things like micro channeling and stuff like that. I kept those fairly expensive, knowing that those were not the services that my like high profile clients that were really wanted. My high profile, like the clients that were really high maintenance, were looking for more fluffy services that were, you know, very like touchy feely, that also had those services attached. And they wanted a certain kind of service. And so what I did is I just changed my menu. So I've talked about this before. I will literally just change my entire menu because I am a big fan of you never compare apples to apples, create apples to oranges.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So what I did is I just created a whole new menu again. I kept some services on, but I just kind of renamed them. And then I just launched everybody's like, hey, I have a new menu. I'm doing some specials with this new menu. Just test everything out. If you haven't seen me in a while, come back in. Right?
Yeah.
I've missed you. I want to see you. Come in to see me. And I knew that some people were still never going to see me. Because quite frankly, I lost some clients that I was happy to lose. And some of the other clients who I never lost, like the really mainstay clients, that because I was kind of keeping their prices still like midline at the more inexpensive price because they were still getting package deals or, specials, because I wanted to keep those clients. We all know those clients that we love, that we make special exceptions for.
Yeah, of course. Like your tried and true.
Right. And so those people, their prices never went up too expensive. They went up a bit and then they stayed at that pricing. Right. And then it left room again to grow into that middling range, which was, for me, it was always like a $399 pricing, $399, $400.
So I'm raising my price. I'm going to just start this because you guys, Sybil has been on my ass for like months about this. So when I open for enrollment in January, I am raising the price $10 for new people. And I was playing with the idea of adding I don't know if I want to do like a 6-month package or a year-long package. So that's actually when we were talking about pricing. I'm like, let me just ask Sybil on the show and get your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to ask you, so what is for you, when you think about a 6-month or a year, what is the difference in your mind between the two?
Yes. Let me give a little bit more backstory too. When I initially launched my membership, it was $197 a month. And I had a really hard time selling people into it. I got first people off the bat who were like, heck yes. A lot of them bought in for a year. And then I feel like I didn't see them anymore. Like they had paid and it wasn't really top of mind. So that's why I went to a monthly, and the person who joined me at the monthly rate over a year ago is still with me. So she is one of my tried and trues.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do annual because I don't want people who aren't in it, like invested in the same way. Right. But I don't know there were so many other factors. I don't know if that's the reason, So then I dropped it down to $67, which is significantly lower, but that has been a sweet spot where now it's not like a Peloton membership. It's higher because you get way more of me than you get any of those instructors. Right. But I want it to go higher. So that's kind of like the backstory of where I'm at. Now, the difference between 6 months and a year, I think I almost don't want to do a year because it feels too far away. Even if I'm getting the money up front, number one, I like having the recurring revenue of like payments coming in every month. And also like, I don't want them to just like, okay, well, I'm going to commit to this and then not be committed.
Right. So I'm going to ask, because this is what people should be asking. This is what I'd be asking the people who are listening. Okay. So when you're thinking about pricing, there's a couple of things you're going to think that you're going to ask yourself. One, what is your ultimate goal with your pricing? Right. So you have an ultimate goal. We've talked about this before. You have an ultimate goal, and then you usually have a secondary goal. So your ultimate goal is, what is your ultimate goal? Is it to make more money? Is it to gain new clients? Is it to gain new clients that have with like a new kind of service? So like, if you're like, I want to gain new clients for this particular service. Because sometimes for you, Alex, you're like, I have one thing. But sometimes people out there, they're like, I do multiple things. Totally. Right? For me, sometimes I'm like, I just want to get people who do hydrofacials. That's what I want. Right. Am I trying to just gain clients for a new service? So what is your ultimate goal? All right. So Alex, is your ultimate goal actually just to make more money, or is it to gain the right kind of client? Or is it to get a long-term client that you can amp them up and get more money out of them long-term? What is your ultimate goal?
I am, yes, to make more money.
But ready? You get one ultimate goal.
One ultimate goal to find the sweet spot where this person is fully comfortable in making this investment and will.
You don't get an and. No. But you don't get an and. No. Ready? So ready, guys? So this is the thing. If you can't answer it, you don't know yet.
Well, so you're going to think I was trying to articulate it.
No. See, that's the thing. An ultimate goal is a very simple answer. It's very simple. It is. Remember how I just gave you them? It's to make more money, period. It is to find the perfect client, period. Okay. It's not Lots of words.
Fine. Well, it's to find the perfect client, but I have different definitions as to what that means. But that's
so this is how it is. Because when you get super clear on what your ultimate goal is, it becomes super easy to make these answers.
Right.
To find the perfect client takes the money situation out of it. It makes it more easy. All right. Right. Because if you're so once again, if you're trying to make more money, the answer is I charge a year-long plan. Because year-long plan brought more people in, correct?
Wait, say that again?
So when you did the year-long plan, you brought more people in, correct?
No.
Which one which your plans brought more people in?
The monthly at 67.
So then you do whatever brings in more people, right? But if you're trying to get whatever your ultimate goal is, do you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
Okay. So find your ultimate goal. And if for you out there who are listening, if your ultimate goal is to just make more money, which sometimes it is, sometimes you're like, guys, I have bills to pay. I have overhead to do. So then you're going to be like, listen, I want to have the perfect client, but right now I need to make money. And so you're going to think to yourself, how you're going to go from how much do I actually need to charge right now to be making the money I need to be making? And that's how you're going to come in at this plan. So it's going to be a little bit different. Now you get to have a second one as well. So you have an ultimate and then you have a secondary. Your secondary is, what is your secondary? So your secondary is the next thing that matters, right? The next thing that matters is probably, I also want to make money. So it's usually one of those two things, but one of them counts more than the other. So if the first one is, I need to make money. The second one's, I want the client. I want my clients to be the perfect client. Though sometimes, guys, it's, I want the client to buy the right service. I want the client to be a friend of a friend. So you have to think about what you need.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking to him, thinking that with this service, right, with my membership, truthfully, like I want the perfect client. Right.
So right. Which is what you're saying to me. I want the perfect client.
Because they're going to stay. They're going to have great results. We're going to have a nice relationship. We're going to have fun. They're going to add to the community. They're going to be a perfect.
Right. So your pricing is going to be less than you want it to be, which is what I've been hearing from you when I'm like, you should be charging people more money. You're like, I don't want to charge people more money. I'm like, that's because she's afraid of losing clients right now. And she also she's seeking a certain kind of client. Right. So for you right now, you are still finding what that perfect client is willing to pay. Right. So you actually should be doing, quite frankly, you should be doing one of those online systems where it's like an unless or something where they're like, you see how much a person's willing to pay. You should be paying.
So complicated.
That's what you should be doing.
Well,
so then you can
the low tech way is we launch now and we try one price, and then we launch again later in the year and we try another price, and then just look at the data. I think that's also another really important thing that I want to make sure we're all considering is like I have spreadsheets and I look, okay, what emails, what is the open rate? How are they performing? And then I just keep using those.
I'm going to straight up tell you though, the data right now is going to be significantly different than the data later, because where we are right now is going to look very different than maybe a few months from now when we're in potentially a deeper recession.
Yeah.
Just saying.
For sure.
So
but I also
you're all thinking about, guys, this is the stuff that goes through my mind when I'm thinking about my 6-figure business.
Yeah. For sure. And then I have like other services, right? So like you're saying, okay, well, what's the goal with it? I have these one-off workshops that I don't have to do anything to deliver. Right. People can come in and buy at any time. And for that, this is just about making money. And so how I package it, how I offer it, that whole system is different because the goal is different. So you have definitely given me clarity with that.
So when I did this kind of thing, what I did is I ran Yelp ads. So this is the one thing that I use Yelp for really well. So what I did is I ran Yelp ads, and I ran different Yelp ads for different services to different kinds of clients. And so if you are out there listening and being like, oh, how could I do this? So what I did is I actually took a certain amount of money, and you could do this on Facebook and stuff as well, but Yelp was super easy. And they give you a person to do this all for you. So you don't have to, right? You have a person and they just are like, I will tell you how to do it. Just give me the money. And so I just was like, okay, I'm looking for a specific kind kind of client. I want to in this money and I want them to get this kind of service. And they're like, okay, cool. And they went after them and I went after them for 3 months. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm not specifically getting as much as I'm looking for. Can we retarget a little bit, put more money into this? Cool. Now I'm getting what I want. Put more money into that one, get more niche. Excellent. And within 8 months, I had the clientele I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what I did. So if you're listening out there, that's how I used Yelp to find specifically what I was looking for.
Yeah.
When I was looking for essentially a higher ticket client for hydrofacials and less waxing. I will straight up tell you, it was harder as a sole proprietor because just targeted ads are harder with Yelp. You have to be very specific and stay on top of on the phone calls with them.
Yeah. Well, Yelp is kind of like the mafia a little bit, aren't they?
They're super the mafia. But if you have a person who's usually in charge of your ads, you just have to stay on top of them and be like, hi, I need you to retarget. Hi, I need you to retarget. Hi, I need you to retarget.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did a similar thing on Facebook with ads. And you could do it on Instagram. Like you could do it on all these. I mean, you can do everything.
But when I did this, like Facebook was not a thing for ads, really. It was like poo, right?
Oh, Facebook.
But yeah, but you can, like I said, you can do all this yourself now with like Facebook or Instagram. But Yelp will find you clients.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
and ultimately, it's like where are people coming to find you?
Right.
And for a lot of you guys with, local businesses, Yelp, I mean, anytime I want to find a restaurant or like a tire repair place, like I 1,000% go to Yelp.
Yelp.
Or Google, actually. Google is another one.
So Google's a big one. And if you are not taking care of your Google listing, make sure you do, because Google has a lot of mad clout. So do pay attention to your Google listing. It is important.
Kind of own the internet just a little bit.
They kind of do. Okay. So that is important. So we've talked about the fact that you should have you should have like one major idea of what you're working on. You have the second one, and then you go in from that section when you're deciding pricing, and then you kind of suss it. And so for me, when I'm getting in new clients, I mess around with it for I mess around with the pricing for like a few months, and don't mess with it too hard.
Yeah.
Like every week, right?
No.
You need to you need at least 30 days. And for me, I usually give myself 3 months.
Yes.
Of like solid playing with it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's with anything, you can only test one variable at a time. And so the reason why, I was testing the marketing materials, right, leading up to this point of the emails and the sequence and the format. And now it's time to test the price. If you're testing everything, you don't know what's actually working and you don't have any information to go off of.
Right. Guys, think of it just like you would skincare. If you literally put people on 7 different products and you change it all around, do you know what's fixing and not working? And if you keep changing it all up, do you know anything that's happening? Testing anything is exactly like skincare. So marketing is exactly like skincare. When you switch people onto it, you're like, I don't know what's working. I don't know what's not working. Okay. And it takes some time for it to work. Some of it might fix right away, but some of it takes a little bit longer, right? There's a curve.
Yep.
Right? But yeah, I think the number one problem with when we change pricing is that a lot of times we sit there and we're like, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Oh my God, it's not working. It is working. It's working. I should mess with it now.
Yeah. Well, I think also you have to be really, you have to believe in your price as well. Like I tried to sell a package that was like, I don't know, like $1,500 a month or something. And it was wrong for so many reasons for the type of clientele that I wanted to work with. But also like I wasn't sold on the idea either. And so when you're trying to sell something that you are not sold on, again, it comes back to like that whole energy exchange, like people are picking up on that as well. So if you can't say it with like confidence and get really excited about it, if it doesn't like, oh my God, so it's going to be like so great. And then like, this is all the things that are happening. Like, then you shouldn't go back to the drawing board,
Right. You do have to believe in it. You have to believe in it 110%. Or you're not going to make it happen.
No. No, because you're going to run into problems along the way. That's guaranteed.
So while we're doing that, let's get into the fact of why you might be having problems believing in your pricing price.
Okay.
Right? Because this happens. So I hear this all the time where people are like, Sybil, I can't raise my prices because my people won't pay it. Or this happens a lot. So first of all, you have people won't pay it. Let's start with that one.
Okay.
Don't pay it. All right. Guys, you just heard me talk to you about the fact that I was charging clients $599 for services. All right. They were not fancy effing services. I even just told you that my high profile clients were not looking for like the micro needling, the micro channeling, a new machine. They wanted my hands rubbing their faces, rubbing their necks with what I thought was the most boring European type facials ever. Okay. They were not the facials I wanted to even be doing. This is why I didn't want to see them anymore. There were super high profile clients being like, just can you just rub my face with some bunch of crap? Can I just have some more eminence on my face?
Eminence.
And I was like, oh my God, what the hell am I even doing here? This is the most boring facial. I don't want to be doing this for 90 minutes. I'm slapping crap on and taking it off.
Right.
Right. It was not my jam. It was not what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be fixing problems, not fixing people's lives.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, and that's all I listened to was like how their first world problems.
So what about people who are like, well, I'm going to lose people if I raise my price?
So my answer is you might lose people, and that's okay. So you're going to lose less people than you think you are. And the people you're going to lose were the people that needed to be lost. It's hard. It's hard, guys. It is. So you would be surprised the number of people who will stay with you because, I want you to look at your own life. If someone, and Alex and I have had this conversation just recently, if somebody raised your Netflix $5 or $10, would you let it go? Right? This is an important thing in your life. You're like, okay, well, I mean, it's my Netflix. It's my iPhone plan. Would you let it go? You have to make that decision. Somebody else can be like, I didn't even notice. I didn't care.
Right.
Somebody like Alex might be like, yeah, that's gone. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Right. But her Chipotle avocado went up to $5 more. She might be like, no, I have to have it. I don't see. You have to find
like,
that it matters.
$5 though. I mean, $2.50, we could still be friends.
It went up to $5, and she's like, it's still worth it. I don't care.
I'll move to Mexico where the avocado is not extra.
Where it's blood diamonds. Mexican avocados are blood diamonds.
I know. It's all fucked up.
I know. So you have to find what matters, right? But then at the same time, you need to realize that person has to value what you're doing and value the experience. But you're also giving them that experience and that value.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and sometimes you have to like give up the good to get to the great. You know? And that transition period is going to be really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For sure. And so I have a story. It's relevant, I swear. So I have decided to become a plant person. And I bought some plants and I'm transitioning them from soil into like a lightweight expanded clay aggregate. And everything I've read online is that the roots are going to die. They're going to die, but it's okay because they're going to make new roots that are perfect for this substrate and all will be fine. It's going to be really sticky in the middle, but your plants will be fine, right? So there is that period of time where you're just going to have to trust yourself that you've made the right decision, that you know what you're doing, that you know that you're doing it because it's right for you and your clients and that ultimate purpose that you're trying to serve. And you're not just doing it because we told you to. Don't just do it because we told you to, even though Sybil knows she's right.
I know I'm right. Okay, guys. So a good example of this for estheticians who might be listening is, when you get a client in and they're like, I want to have nicer skin, and you're working it, and then you reach the point where they're like, you have to explain to them that you have to make their pigmentation worse before it gets better, or you have to, make their skin break out to get all the congestion out to make it better, to get rid of the scarring, right? This is sometimes what it's like when you are raising prices, right? And I'm going to be honest with you. Do not apologize or make excuses for raising prices. It just makes it worse.
Yep.
Right? There is nothing worse in my mind that when you're like, I'm really sorry, I have to raise my prices because of hashtag these reasons, right? I hate it when people are like, well, mozzarella has gone up pricing, so that's why pizzas are more expensive. Shut the fuck up.
Just charge me more.
All right, guys, Starbucks isn't like coffee beans are more expensive. That why your latte's $9.
Seriously, the price is the price.
Right.
Period.
It's just the price, guys. Everyone knows prices go up. And if they complain about it, you just look at them and you're like, this is the price. If you don't like it, go down the street. And
everyone is just like sweating right now, just like, oh my God, I could like never say that to like any of my people.
Right. The other thing is a lot of times they just need acknowledgement. And by the way, we're going to thank the wax queen for this acknowledgement right now. I know. But it remember, sucks. I know.
This whole conversation started with not taking things personally, right? So you start there, and then by the time you get to here, and so maybe this is a multi-step process, but please, guys, promise us that by the end of 2021, you will have raised your prices. Like we're giving you a long runway to figure it out.
And it doesn't have to be so. And raising your prices, honestly. So the usual is it's 15%, and you'll lose 15% of your clients. And you'll gain 15% of your clients again within by the end of the year. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that that's the only way you can do it. You can choose any amount that you want. If you don't feel comfortable with 15%, be like $5, but choose anything you want. And like, if you go back and you listen to our archives, I talk about how I broke my business and I raised my prices 50%. And guess what? I did it and I survived. It was horrible. I started telling people it was horrible. I thought I was going to die. I cried a lot. I sat around.
Grew new roots.
I know. And I grew new roots and I was fine. And everything was fine. I did it a second time because I was like, I did it one time. It's going to be easy. It wasn't easy. It's never easy. It's never easy. It's going to be all right though. And by the way, every time I raise my prices, I have just as much anxiety. I just raised all of my prices on my skincare stuff online and was just like, I hope no one notices. It's like $3. I hope no one notices.
And
by the way, no one has noticed.
It's fine if they do. For the same, you can come here and shop with me and support my business or not. That's okay.
Right.
I'm fine.
That's how it is. Understand also that if you are the cheapest person on the block, no one wants to see you because they're like, why is she so cheap?
Yeah. That's so true. Oh my gosh. I mean, like even, memberships that are like $1 or $5. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of already have an idea of like what I'm going to get at that price. Right. Like I'd rather pay a little bit more personally to have a better experience for this certain type of thing, Yeah.
You're like, what am I getting for that $1? I mean, you're like, I got what I got.
We're going to poke you in the eye and you're going to love it.
Right. It's going to be amazing. And you don't want that $1 client, trust me.
No.
You don't. That is not your client. That is not your client.
No, it's also why I don't do free trials any longer.
We learned a valuable lesson from that. Yeah. Other reasons why people don't want to raise their prices. So I hear this a lot. People are like, I don't need the money. I live in service to people. All right. So guys, there are two things about this. One, if you live in service to people, I love you. That's great. But you're not living in service to anybody, right? Those people, they have money and they should be paying you for the services that you give. If you want to be in service to anyone, make money and donate it.
Yep.
Donate it to a wonderful cause, a cause that you believe in.
Yep.
This is what you should be doing. This is what rich people do. Mm-hmm. And if they're not doing it, they should be. I'm talking to you, Bezos. I'm talking to you. Right? This is what you should be doing. So when I understand, like I teach classes and I have people who'll be like, when I'm teaching the marketing portion of any class I do, because I teach classes, I teach you how to sell that thing. And I'm like, so we want to make money and this is how we're going to make money. And people are like, I don't really think I need to. And I'm like, no, you need to. I'm like, well, I think that I'm doing okay. I'm like, okay, it's not good enough. You should be making a ton of money. I'm like, I don't think that that's what needs to happen. I'm a healer. As a healer, you should be making a ton of money. That way you can go heal the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking that too. It's like, take care of yourself first, and then you will be able to be more impactful with your money. And if you're like, okay, but what does taking care of myself first look like? I have my own issues with the man personally, but Dave Ramsey has like a great layout of like, here are the steps you should be taking. Ramit Sethi has a book we've talked about, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, like do these things first. But like if you have debt and you don't have an emergency fund saved up, look at me, you guys, telling you to have an emergency fund. You see how much Lindsay changed my life? Yeah. Get those things first. And to get those things, hey, guess what? You're going to probably need to be making more money to make that happen. And one of the most beautiful things as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs is that we can make more money whenever we want to. We have that capacity to do that. So make more money, take care of yourself so that you can then heal more people. You can share, you can do pro bono work, you can donate to charities, you can do things you care about. You can't do that just by living to check to check.
No, absolutely not. So, I'm always like, how like my friends can come and ask me to help them. And I'm like, and I can, because I have that ability. I make a good income. I want to donate to something. I can, I have that ability. I make a good income. When we have a pandemic, I was okay because I have a good income. I was able to sit around and stress about pivoting because I was okay. I had a good income. I hope that everybody out there listening is thinking to themselves, I'm a healer. I'm going to start healing myself, and then I can heal the world.
Mm-hmm. I think too of like money mindset issues as well, of like, we have this story because my mom and I were talking about money recently, and I was just like, yeah. And it's not like I'm trying to make like $1 bajillion to buy like a Ferrari, but even if I were, that would still be okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Arguing with me on that. Oh, well, but that's not what you're trying to do. I'm like, yes, but even if it was, it would be 100% okay, because this idea of, the like slimy rich person who is just like selfish, like there are so many people around you. Like you probably know people who are millionaires, which no longer seems like that much money in this world, who are great people.
Yeah.
Having money doesn't make you a bad person. And in fact, when you have money, you're probably going to be the same person you are now. So like work on your money stories so that you can be released of that anxiety and that shame and all of those nonsense stories about money.
Yes, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Yeah, no, I've always been interested. One of my best friends, one day I was like talking to her about like our finances or whatever. And she's just like, well, one of my properties, brought in like $7 million last year. And I looked at her, I was like, damn, she drives like a Honda Civic.
Well, that's the thing. Rich people are like flying under the radar. It's just celebrities.
I know. And I was like, well, the thing is, and I was like, the thing is, she's one of those people who she's just like, I don't care. I just take care of myself. But I know that she has donated to a bunch of causes that she loves. And I thought to myself, I bet she donates way more than I thought she does. She gives to foundations, stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that you can do when you have money as a tool. So think of money as a tool. Like, can you imagine insisting on like not buying any more cleanser because like you're a healer, you don't need it. Like you can't do your job without it. And money is no different than anything else. So the sooner that you can really unpack and grow from the stories that you're carrying with you about money and get over feeling guilty about making more money so that you can actually help more people, like the faster you'll be able to get there.
Right. And while we're talking also about pricing is I was just recently on a board and I 100% like respect the person who had this conversation. So she was talking about the fact that, she has made a 7-figure income this year as an esthetician, and she did it by herself. Unlike many people who are like, I had help from my husband or my friend, she did it by working 6 days a week, 10-hour days, right? She charges good money for her services. She's a medical esthetician. And there was a lot of kind of like chatter about this. And it was chatter about like, there was a lot of like one side where they're like, well, that's too many hours to work. And like, is that even like considering, is that like, she's like 28, is like, she's going to burn herself out. And you know what? She might very well burn herself out at that rate. But at the same time, she's doing it on her own. She's working hard. And would I look at someone like that and say, hey, at 28, you might think about, maybe working less at that point? If, as somebody who's done all this, maybe work less. Maybe you don't need to work that many hours now, but she can.
She can if she wants. But I mean, that's also a whole nother conversation about setting up your business and designing your business intentionally so that you don't only make money for the hours that you are working.
That is true. But it's pricing. Also, her pricing, what happened was people were like, well, she's charging a lot of money for her services. And I was like, yeah, she is. She deserves to. I'm like, what's the problem with that? So I was interested by the conversations that happened because of this post. And so the two sides where she's working too much, she's charging a lot of money.
God forbid.
Not good for, and there were some good for yous, but there was just a lot of like conversation and chatter about how much she's working and how much she's charging for services. And although I don't always agree with like everything that this particular esthetician does, I was like, hey guys, you still have to support an esthetician who's successful, making money, and doing it on her own.
Hell yeah. Every time I hear a story like that, to me, it's like so inspiring to hear what's possible. Where a lot of times I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that like that not is the limit, but that could happen. You know? So yeah, people like tearing down other people with all their own judgments, just like get out, please.
Right. So out there, guys, there are other people who are doing it. They're being successful. They're pricing, can you hold yourself up to a medical esthetician if you're not? No. But that does not mean that you cannot like raise your prices. You can't price. I'm not a medical esthetician. I was pricing at a price point that felt comfortable to me. Right. And I did not wind up pricing to the point where it was all like high end, clients. It was just like regular people.
And maybe you want to work with high end clients. So like jack your prices way up.
Oh my God, please take them. All they want is like people to rub their faces with
slap it around.
They just want evidence. That's all they want.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds funny.
They all do. It's just stuff that smells like really good. It's just all the really good smelling stuff. That's what they
nail filtrate.
Yeah, no, not even smell filtrate. It's all just like it's just stuff that smells like you made it in your kitchen. It smells great. It hydrates and smells yummy. I think they're just like life is very stressful. And so they just need you to downregulate them and they want nap time facials. They were the people I created nap time facials for. Swear to God, they're the people I created nap time facials for.
So you can be like, okay, bye.
High profile clients I created nap time facials for. That is the start of nap time facial. High profile clients.
Love it, love it. All right. So your action steps is to really think about what the purpose of raising your prices is. And if you're like, I don't need to raise my prices. Yeah, you do. Go back and listen to this again. We all probably need to raise our price on some service somewhere.
Yeah.
Because like #reasons and life.
Yeah. And I will be straight up, guys. Next year, it's going to feel at one point in time, you're going to feel like you shouldn't do it because there's going to be some stress next year. You're probably going to feel like you're failing at some point and that business is hard. Do it anyways. Raise your prices. It's going to be fine. Decide what to raise them. We want to hear about it. Tell us. And if you wind up having questions about how to raise your prices, we got lots of episodes about it.
Yeah, we do. But
we'll probably have another one.
We definitely want to hear from you. So come find us on the socials. The show is at Skinfessional. Sybil is at Your Skin Fitness Expert. And I am at Holla for Mala. You can also give us a ring-a-ling on our box. What's that box number?
It's a Skinfessional box. Oh my gosh, it is. The number is 818-473-5277. By the way, you can't text the box. You can only call it. Apparently people have been trying to text it. Don't text it. I just get messages telling me that people are trying to text it. You can DM us on our IG, but you cannot text our box. You can only call us with a real voice.
Good to know. Good to know.
All right, guys. So this has been fantastic. Until next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.